Hi, I'm Kay Whitt, designer for Serendipity Studio, and today we're going to be talking about ways to travel with your electronic devices when you're on vacation or on a business trip. That's always the problem, is how will you keep your phone safe, your tablet safe, your computer safe? And I've got some great ideas to share with you today on how to do exactly that. So one of the bags that I would like to share with you first is what I call the digital messenger bag. And it has this wonderful divided liner on the inside. So one side is wool felt, and the other side is cotton, and then it has this nice divider in between, and that way you can slip your tablet device on the wool felt side where it's more padded to protect the screen and to keep your other items away from it. And then you can store your other items on the other side, and you don't have to worry about scratching your tablet or, you know, what if I drop it? It's nicely padded so it protects it. So here's what we're going to do. I've got the components for that divided liner with me today. So here's the divider part. I've got fabric, and I have put a fusible lightweight interfacing on the back side. So I've got two of the fabric pieces. This is the larger, that'll form the outside of the lining. This is the divider. And then I have two wool felt pieces. So this is the other outside piece of the liner, and this is the other half of the divider. So let's focus on the divider first. So I've got my two pieces. I've got my wool felt, and I should also mention that I have fused fusible fleece to the back of the wool felt pieces just to give them some extra padding. And then I have a piece of stiff stabilizer here that I'll show you in just a moment of what I'm going to do with that. So we'll start with the divider piece. I'm going to put those right sides together. And notice that this end is a little wider than this end, and you'll notice also on this bag that the base is a little wider than the top. So this narrower end is my top. So I'm going to stitch that together with a 1/4 inch seam now at the machine. This will be a little quickie seam here. Okay. All right. Trim the threads. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to press that seam to one side. So get the iron here, and really doesn't matter what side you press it to. I'm pressing it toward the fabric side simply because it's just a little bit bulky. Then the next thing that we'll do is flip it over to the wrong side. And my stabilizer here has a fusible side, so I want to put that fusible side close to that seam and close this. And then I'll press again. Flip it over and press again. What I'm basically doing is getting that steam to activate the adhesive on the stabilizer so that it will adhere well and stay in place when I get ready to stitch it with the outsides of the lining. So we're going to go back to the machine now, stitch along the top edge and down the sides so that this divider is completely encased. And again, I could use pins, but I'm kind of a maverick that way. I'm just going to go ahead and stitch it without. But if it makes you feel more comfortable to use pins, you certainly can. So I'm going to start at the top finished edge here. I would just do about a 1/4 inch from the raw edge. Over to this corner. And we're now finish up this stitching here, and our divider is good. I'll trim our threads and come back to the table here. And here's our finished divider. And you know, one thing I'd forgotten to show you before we got started on that is this is kind of the crazy way this divider looks before it's inserted into the bag. And you'll see that that divider does run right down the middle. I truly do divide the halves of this lining so that that divider is permanent. Nothing can slide under it or over it. Okay, so moving along, let's look at the lower edge of this outside lining. And you'll see that I've got some markings here. I'm going to cut these corners out. I've measured in 1 1/4 inches from both sides. I'm just going to cut those away. And the next thing I'm going to do is fold this so that those cut edges line up, and use my ruler and my fabric marker here. Now this is the folded edge, this angle, and these are the cut edges. And so what I want to do is I want to stitch from the folded edge down and stop 3/4 of an inch in from this edge and from this edge. So I'm going to use my ruler to mark that. So we're at 3/4 in this way and down this way. I'll just put a dot there, and then I like to just draw some lines to remind myself that that's how I'm going to stitch that. That way when I get to the machine, I don't forget to stop. Everybody hates to take stitches out. And again, I'll just mark to the fold. Now the reason that that's important will become apparent in the next step, because when I add it to the divider, I need to be able to open that corner up, and that's why I don't want that stitching to go all the way to the edge. So we go back to the machine, we're going to stitch these 2 corners. And so that one's done. Let's fold the other one. And it really doesn't matter, you know, you can start the stitching from the fold and go to the mark, or start at the mark and go to the fold. It doesn't really matter. As long as the stitching gets done, that's what's important. Okay, so those are stitched now, and notice how my corner, I stopped 3/4 of an inch short from it. So I've got half of a lining ready to show you. I've already, on this one, here's my divider. On this other side, I have attached the fleece and felt in the same way that I'm going to be adding this one. So at this point, I think I need some straight pins. Got some right here. This is one of the few times that I like to pin. I'm going to keep my top edges even. And note that we've got this corner to deal with. We don't want to stitch through that corner. It's important to stop the stitching and then pick it back up as we go along the bottom. So here's what's going to happen. I'm just going to talk through this part. I would fold these corners out and stitch from here across. Then I'll fold this out of the way and stitch from here down on both sides. And what that will do is give us these opened out corners. Notice how I've trimmed my seams down to 1/4 inch. That way I reduce the bulk when I add it to the bag, and I don't have so much to stitch through. And so that gives us a divided liner for a bag that can hold a tablet. Now I'd like to share with you a couple other samples that I brought with me today. One of them is a camera bag, and it's got these really great dividers on the inside. Notice that there's Velcro here, and you can move those around to customize whatever camera or lenses you happen to be carrying, or memory cards, whatever it might be. And then the last one I want to show you is this zippered pocket here. This pocket lining is lined with foam, so that you can slip your tablet or phone or whatever other device you might have with you, and it'll keep everything nice and secure. So that's everything about divided liners and ways to carry your media in a friendly way to keep it safe.